Hey there, my name's Rick Clemons, and I'm a bold move expert and a guy who coaches people to dump their excuses, face their fears, and live unapologetic lives. And one of the things that I know to be true is this, or at least this is what I have perceived, that if you are in a sexless relationship, then you are in a sexless life. Now, I know everything doesn't revolve around sex and, all that good stuff, but what I've learned is people who are in sexless marriages, they're pretty unhappy, or in sexless relationships. Now, that doesn't count for the asexual people. That's a whole different ballgame. But how do I know this to be true? Well, a few months ago, I hosted a group of guys, 40 years old and older, at a meetup that I did at a conference. And these guys were all invited to participate. It kind of followed my 40 plus real men, real talk podcast format, where we talk about things that guys like us talk about. And I was really surprised that almost half the guys that showed up, so about 10 of the guys out of the 20, were in some form of a sexless relationship. It really got me thinking, wow, what is going on that we have these kind of relationships where that piece of intimacy and sex is missing? But it wasn't just about the sex for me, because here's what I knew to be true, that when this happens, that means there's something else connected in your life, and then other things you're doing in life can be really miserable as well. So here's what I want you to think about if you are in one of those relationships. Number one, is it about the sex or is it about intimacy? Number two, maybe you need to ask the questions, are you sexually compatible? And number three, is there something going on elsewhere that no longer turns you on to that person or that intimacy piece that you're sharing with them? Number four, are you putting too much emphasis on sex? And number five, does the overall relationship need a little bit of an overhaul? So I'm going to run through those real quickly again, because these are 5 questions I think will help you determine, hey, is this really a sexual problem or is there something else going on? So number one, is it about sex or is it more about the intimacy? It's not about the bada bang, bada boom. Maybe it's about we're not talking to each other, we're not having conversations, we're not holding hands, we're not having intimate, little gestures and things such as that. Number two, is there something else going on that is causing you to not want to be in that space? You're not being turned on. You're not enjoying your company with this person. Number three, are you putting too much emphasis on sex? Number four, do you need to look at the overall relationship and see if possibly it needs an overhaul? And the other one that I almost forgot was, are you sexually compatible? Now, as I was working through this, I had another idea, and here's where we link it to sexless marriage, sexless life. And I want you to just replace the sexual relationship, so whether you're married or boyfriend, girlfriend, and I want you to put your career in that space. Okay, so let's go through this again. Is there something that you're missing in your career that you're not having an intimate relationship with your career or your job or the company you work for? Is there intimacy missing that is making you feel like you're not having an orgasmic relationship in your job? Number two, are you no longer compatible with your job? The same way, are you no longer sexually compatible with your partner, but are you no longer compatible with your job? Maybe 5 years ago when you started that job, or 2 years ago, or 10 years ago, or whatever it might be, you may have been really, really compatible with that job, but maybe now you're not, and you need to re-examine that. Number three, are you putting too much emphasis on your career bringing you happiness and joy? Now, I realize we all have careers and our work, and they're a huge part of our life, but sometimes, just sometimes, I believe we make that career too responsible for everything else in our life. Maybe you need to think about not putting so much emphasis on that career and letting the career provide you other things like the money to go do a side hustle. The career gives you that fulfillment of getting done, things done, doing a job well done, all that sort of stuff, but don't make it responsible for stuff it can't really be responsible for. And then, do you need to look at the overall feelings that you have about your job and give a little bit of an overhaul to them, okay? Same sort of stuff. So again, I'm going to run through this at the highest level. We're going to do it from the sex piece, and I'll throw the work in again real quick. Is there something about the intimacy that you're having in sex, in your relationship, or the intimacy you're having in your career? Are you no longer compatible in your career or in your sexual relationships? Number 3, is there something else going on that really is the problem and it's not just about the sex or it's not just about the career? Number 4, are you putting too much emphasis on the quote sex part of it and not putting emphasis where it needs to be? Number 5, do you just need to do an overall overhaul? So here's 3 things, kind of had a tongue twister there, 3 things that I would encourage you to do. 1, if any of this is showing up in your sex life or your career, to have some very vulnerable conversations, either with your partner, your girlfriend, your bosses, your coworkers, whatever, depending on the situation. Number 2, ask your partner or your coworkers or your boss what their perception is of what they believe is going on for you. Sometimes we need that insight, but you got to be open and vulnerable to ask those kind of questions. Number 3, I want you to come to that conversation with solutions. Don't come pointing the finger and saying, you need to do this. They may need to, but you also need to remember, you might need to point the finger right back at yourself, because you need to come with some solutions of what might you do to move the thing forward, to be more willing to explore how to fix the problems. And number 4, I want to make sure that when you do come to these conversations, even if that conversation is with yourself, that you'll walk away with an action plan, that you'll take at least one step to move things forward. So if you are in a quote sexless relationship with yourself, with work, with a partner, with friends, with the world at large, maybe, just maybe that's the reason you're having a sexless life. And if you're struggling with this and living a very apologetic life, you're struggling with excuses and you're trying to, get over your fears, but you just can't seem to do that, I want to invite you to go to nofearsnoexcuses.com. When you get there, it's a page on my website where you can download the Unapologetic Life Assessment. And it will be something you can get immediately, and I'm going to send it to you via email, and I'm going to follow it up with 3 other videos to help you start moving forward to living your life without apologies. That's my gift to you for watching this video, and I hope everything that you've heard helps you in some way, and especially if you go do that assessment, that it'll move you along to living your life without apologies. I'm Rick Clemons, and I look forward to helping you in any way that I can to go live a life, no excuses, no fears, no apologies.